Good evening, everyone, and my name is Gerard Mitchell, and I'm the chairperson of the Prince Edward Island Electoral Boundaries Commission that's been established under the Electoral Boundaries Act. I'd like to introduce to you the four other members of the commission. Beginning on my far right is Elizabeth Shaw. She likes to be called Libby, I think. Yep. Next to me on my right is Lynn Murray, QC. On my immediate left is Kerry Carpenter, and on my far left is Elmer MacDonald. I'd like to say just a few opening remarks, then give you, the members of the public, the opportunity to make submissions or ask questions or simply state your views to the Commission regarding the subject at hand. We're certainly interested in your input and your advice in this matter. The function of the Commission is to review the 27 districts of the province and to make a report to the Legislative Assembly setting out recommendations for any changes to the areas, boundaries, and names of the electoral districts of the province. In determining the area to be included and in fixing the boundaries of a district, the Commission is required by the Electoral Boundaries Act to take into consideration the following factors: the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, in particular Section 3 of that. Secondly, the data from the Register of Electors. Thirdly, the polling divisions from the most recent general election. 4, the geographical features of the island. 5, information pertaining to population. 6, community of interest. 7, municipal boundaries. 8, public input. And 9, any guidelines or criteria proposed for consideration by resolution of the Legislative Assembly. I might say at the present time there are no such resolutions from the Legislative Assembly. However, the Legislative Assembly meets later this year, and there may be some by then, who knows. As part of the process, the Commission is required to hold public meetings such as this one throughout the province to enable people to make representations as to the area and boundaries of any district. And we have scheduled 14 public meetings to hear from people across the province, of which this is the first. The Commission is to make its report to the Legislative Assembly within 6 months of its establishment. Here I must stress a significant difference from previous Electoral Boundary Commission reports. This time the Legislative Assembly is required to accept the recommendations of the Commission. Accordingly, it is important for people to make their views known to this Commission and not wait for another forum or body. The Commission has no authority to add to or to subtract from the number of districts. That stays the same at 27. We are concerned only with changes to the areas, boundaries, and names of the 27 existing districts. We have no mandate beyond that. As you can see, the Commission has brought 3 maps to this meeting. One shows the present boundaries of the 27 districts. The other 2 are examples of what the 27 districts could possibly look like, given that there is clearly a need for some changes. The 2 sample maps, one of which is right at the back wall, and one is behind to the right. Those 2 maps are intended to engage discussion at these public meetings. Neither of those sample maps has been decided upon by the Commission as the map. A final map may well look quite different from either of those. When I say that changes are necessary, it is because some districts presently have far too many electors and others have far too few. If we were to make all of the districts equal, each would have about 3,700 voters. The average number of voters is important because the discretion of the Commission is somewhat constrained by both the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and by the Electoral Boundaries Act itself. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which, by the way, is the supreme law of the land, requires that any deviations from average must be justified on the ground that such deviation contributes to better government of the population as a whole, given due weight to regional issues within the population. The Electoral Boundaries Act provides that no district can be above or below the average by more than 25%. At present, 3 districts are more than 25% above or below the average. 5 more are over 20%, and 4 more are over 15%. That means that at least 12 districts are too big or too small. Keep in mind that the Supreme Court of Canada has decided that only variances allowable in the context of electoral boundaries are those that can be justified in the name of more effective representation for the population as a whole. Voter parity is of prime importance, but it is not the only factor to be taken into account. Effective representation is the overall goal, and it cannot be achieved without taking into account countervailing factors such as community history, community of interest, group identity, and minority language and cultural representation. Numbers are important in establishing electoral boundaries, but establishing electoral boundaries is not simply a numbers exercise. With that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you to bring forward your representations, submissions, questions. Please feel free to begin as you wish. There's a microphone in the center. If you wish to approach it, please do so.
For audio recording, we do prefer you use the mic, though. Thanks.
Always got to be a first.
What's that? Okay. Yeah, somebody had to go first. I'm Chris Palmer. I'm the MLA for the district. And my question was around the previous map. Was there an even distribution of population in it? And the numbers where we are 25% above or below, was that because of growth or contraction of those areas?
It's a bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Some areas have grown substantially, and others, population has seemed to move from both the west and the east towards the center of the province, towards the more urban areas. Yeah. And it doesn't seem to be something that's going to change real quick.
My name is Gerard McArdle, and I'm from District 21 presently. Is there any way of bringing up on the map as you said, there's 2 proposals that you're looking at for this area?
Yeah, that's the 2 maps back here.
But do you have it on?
Bring them up here, yeah.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, one of the proposals for, say, District 21 is not even Summerside anymore, is that correct? By the look of that map? Is 22, it looks like 22 and 23 would be...
Yeah, just renumbered.
Okay, so basically 21 would be considered 22, and then...
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other one is basically the same, but it has District 22 on basically coming over the top of 21. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think what you find about the two maps is that one is more by the numbers,
Right.
and the other is more, we tried to come up with one that looked more
Right.
at neighborhoods type of
And that's
situation. We also kept numbers in mind, but
And that, and just for some history, which some people know, as Kerry does, I ran in District 21 back in the early 2000s.
oh, I see. Yeah.
And I ran the year that they changed the boundaries. And one of the things I found as a candidate running, along with many others, it was a total fiasco on people knowing who was supposed to be where. And I'm looking at that map right now, the two proposals, not saying whether one's right or one's wrong, it's going to be, I consider, a fiasco for the general public to try to understand who or where they're going to be voting. And from what I understood from your comments earlier, is whatever's recommended from this commission is going to be, like, the government will accept what you folks come up with. Is that correct?
That's what the law says now.
Okay.
The law says. So we better get it right.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm looking at basically the next election for people that are running. It's not only are they going to try to run on their party, but also to run, okay, where the hell am I running? Because I look at Summerside there now, and I would say it's going to be mass confusion for individuals knowing with the boundaries they are now. It's going to be a big, big history lesson, because you look where in one map where 22 sits over the top of 21, and then you got the renaming of 21 being 22 and 22 being 23. How are you folks planning on educating people in that? Or is it doing this type of thing first and then coming up and then the education part?
Well, I think that the education part may, to a certain extent, must come later, because what you have to do is get your map, and then you get your workers, and you get people to understand where there has to be elections. PEI will come in and set up new polling divisions, and you go from there. Hopefully, by getting getting this done as early as possible, it will allow time for people to become educated about their districts.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Rayner. I'm chairman of the community of Padecan area. What I'm going to present to you is really not an awful lot to do with electoral reform, but it is with your districts. Last year we went through sort of a trial and error with amalgamation, and the government was promoting to us big time, go with Borden, Carleton, Van Bedeck, and we would be called District 19, the new municipality of District 19. And when I look at the map, they're trying to get municipalities down from 73 to, ironically, 27. And when I look at the map, I see 27 districts, and I see the government wanting 27 municipalities. We had 2,580 people on our agenda for our new municipality, and yet they keep saying you have to have 4,000 people. If you people are working toward 3,700 or perhaps a little bit less, then I can see the Department of Municipalities going to have a wee little bit of a problem, because for us to go with our 4,000 people, then we would have to cut into the Crapo district or the further into the Freetown area or whatnot. Anyway, I just thought I would mention that, because it was promoted by the minister that we go with District 19. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, so what's become of that?
Right now, our application is on hold in the minister's office, and he requested that we don't pull it because we didn't want bigger communities outside of ours infringing into our territory, and there was discussion of that at the time. But the way that it stands right now is the government is very patiently waiting for the development in the Three Rivers community of Montague, Georgetown, etc. I have no idea what that would encompass as far as the districts down in that area. But I do know that the Borden, Kincora, Badek area is totally all District 19.
And what are your communities again? What are the ones that you mentioned?
Borden Carlton,
Yeah.
Kincora. Well, Borden is a town.
Yes.
They have 750 people. Kincora is a community, and they have 350. And we are a community, and we have 320. And, well, that's only 1,500 people. We would have to have the rest of 19 in order to get our 4,000 people. According to that map, 19 only has 3,782. So
Right.
the government keeps saying, you must have 4,000 people. They're going to have to come down to 3,500 or something. You know,
I
there has
see
to be a
what you're
little give or take on it. But that's where we were told, leave your application as is. We technically are second on the list. If Three Rivers goes, then it looks like we will be promoted to go to.
Okay, thank you.
Is that voters or population? Population would be 4,000 and 3,700 voters.
They tell us, as far as, and I asked this question earlier, apparently it's voters.
Okay.
We had our 2,500 voters, but we said you need 4,000.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Len Arnold. I have a question regarding
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, sir.
Len Arnold.
Len Arnold? Thank you.
I have a question regarding special interest communities. In a previous map that was drawn that was not accepted, they drew a little circle around Wellington and gave them up to 3 times the voting power of the rest of the province. And I'm concerned about this because with my, I'd say, a moderate knowledge of the province, I cannot see where Prince Edward Island would rate any special interest community. The reason this is in the federal statute is because you wouldn't want to see Tuktoyaktuk and Inuvik in with Edmonton or Peace River. It wouldn't be suitable. Or Qualit in with Quebec City. You know, it wouldn't make sense. But in Prince Edward Island, when you see the distribution of the population, I cannot see where a special interest community would warrant a special electoral district.
Well, traditionally, on the island, the constituency we now call Evangeline has been smaller than other districts, so as to ensure there's representation for the Acadian culture and language in the legislature. And that's always been traditionally considered a special interest, if you like.
But when one looks at the uncles and cousins and grannies and whatnot, they're spread all over Tignish and Rustico and Charlottetown. And
realize that. That's true.
So I do not understand why it would rate a special interest community.
Well, that's, I understand what you're saying, but that's the background to it.
My name's John Curtis, Summerside.
Hi, John.
I want the committee to resign. I'm challenging the validity of the. Okay. The Brunswick Supreme Court Appeals Chief Justice Dupre told the New Brunswick Attorney General.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you well. Would you
Okay.
hold the mic down towards you?
There, okay, yeah, sir. You got me now, sir?
Yep.
All right, okay. New Brunswick Supreme Court of Appeal Chief Justice Dupre told the New Brunswick Attorney General, the Attorney General must act in the interest of the general public, not with a political agenda. Giz raised the Election Act. I ran in the 2007 election. I needed 10 signatures, $200. He raised it to 25 signatures and $200. Larry McGuire ran as a liberal, as an independent, and he took the swing vote, and the Liberals lost the riding. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, under Section 3 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, I have the right to vote, and I have the right to seek elected office. Nobody has proven the reason why they increased the number of signatures. I wanted to run in the by-election. I refused to provide 25 signatures, refused to pay the $200 deposit. I ran as an independent. And what I'm saying is you had the 2011 election, the 2015 election. Nobody's proven that to be lawful. And thereby, until they prove it, you guys can't change election boundaries. Now, sir, you pointed out that the Conservatives changed election boundaries, right? You said some of them were illegal. I can't remember the exact number. It's the same thing. What the Liberals did with the number of signatures and what the Conservatives did was the same thing. They acted in a political interest and not in the interest of the general public.
Well, I didn't say that they were illegal in the first place. I said that they've become illegal over time because the numbers in some communities have increased such that they're beyond the 25%, and in other places because they're below the 25%.
What? Okay, it went I think it was a judge that drew the first election boundaries, and then it was election PEI, and then the Conservatives.
Okay.
Okay, I had a head injury there, so my memory, all right, now. But what I'm trying to tell you is they moved with a political agenda. You follow me? The Conservatives did way back whenever. They changed that. All right. Well, since then, you had the Liberals come in. Mm-hmm. They changed the Election Act. So the Election Act doesn't get changed for every 12 years. So they changed it anyways. And what I'm saying is, until you, sir, you're one of the top dogs on the charter on the island. Okay?
Okay.
So you know what Section 3 is, you know?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Now, I was denied my right to run in that by-election as an independent. I ran as an independent in 2007. So what I'm telling you, sir, is you wrote a book on exclusion of evidence. You wrote the book to explain to the general public, right? So the onus is on you because you have the most knowledge of the ones here. The onus is on you to prove the changing of the Election Act by the Giz government was valid. Because if you don't, then you, what's his name, McLaughlin, can't bring forward a committee to change election boundaries.
Well, I think you're giving me too much credit. I think our mandate here is a very narrow one. And that is, we don't have anything to do with the Election Act as such. We have only to do with the Electoral Boundaries Act. And we can only do the functions that are given us there, and that is to review the boundaries, the areas, and the names. It's a pretty narrow scope.
Sir, I knew you were going to say that.
Okay.
Okay. I went to I wrote to the Conflict of Interest Commissioner. Can't touch it because I'm not an MLA.
Okay.
You follow me? I wrote to the Ethics Commissioner. She doesn't have the authority. So that she was appointed by McLaughlin. All right? I went to Attorney General Janice Sherry. She wouldn't touch it. I went before a committee in 2016 on the election, right? I wanted the right to recall politicians. I'm not going to stand up here because give someone else a chance. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They all gave me the same song and dance. Well, sir, this is why I'm demanding every one of you resign. Okay?
Okay.
You won't address the issue. You're telling me you can't because you narrow the scope. And so what I'm saying is until the changes in the 2007, which brought in the 2011 and 2015 election, until they're proven valid, you don't have legitimacy, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
what you're saying is you're challenging our validity.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Maybe this would be a good time to take a little break and give people an opportunity to go have a look at the maps and come back and we can have some more discussion. We've got some coffee and some cookies I can see from here, and maybe after you get a better chance to look at the maps, we can have more discussion. And I know that you're number one when we come back. Okay, we'll stand in recess for a few minutes. Okay, I guess we'll call the meeting back to order, and you're welcome to take the microphone now.
I'm Margaret McKay, and I live in District 23. And I have met yourself several times, Your Honor, and I know Lynn, and I know Elmer, and I know that this commission will be very well run, and you will do an excellent job of dealing with this issue, which sometimes gets a little out of hand. I was asking the Chief Electoral Officer about how you reached the population numbers, and I had enumerated in the last election, and in one of the polls in District 23, and we found there were several homes that were not even on the election list, and people that personally knew. One was across from me and knew people had lived in it for 10, 12 years or more. And so I was kind of a little worried about where you're getting your numbers, but I understand it's coming from several enumerations and not just coming, because the other, is the census, which would only give you numbers in each community. One of the things that causes me a little concern, because Linkletter bordered, or Grand River Linkletter borders in District 23 into part of Summerside. It includes the trailer parks, it includes the McQuaid Court and part of St. Eleanor's. And I noticed that District 23 is a little low, it's minus 8.29%. But I guess some of the concern I have is often the town issues are completely different from the country issues. And I realize that sometimes with population, where the majority of the population is in the cities and towns, that it's a hard issue to keep. Because in the case of Summerside now, if they go to do anything in the city, they have to call in 3 MLAs instead of previously it was 2, and their population is only only a little over 7,500, 8,000 people at one time now. I'm just not sure what it is at the moment. But the city-country situation where you have, in our case, out in Linkletter, we have a large farming community and very large farmers. And their issues are completely different from what it is in the city of Summerside, and we often don't relate to them. I'm wondering where you're following along. The previous districts pretty well followed along the lines of where the federal districts were, And is that going to be taken into consideration, or is that another issue completely?
We haven't taken that, the federal boundaries too much into consideration, but one of the things we try to do as much as possible is adhere to municipal boundaries, because we recognize what you say, that there's a different interest between the rural and the municipal, but it's not always easy to be completely one or the other. There are some times that it works out that there has to be a bit of a mix, although we recognize the problem, and I think personally, speaking for myself, I would like, if possible, that districts would be either rural or municipal and not mixed. But that's not easy. It's easy to say and difficult to do sometimes. And especially when you're trying to get the numbers right at the same time.
Because the other area that's going to, it's probably going to be 10 years down the road before the amalgamation issue is going to come into play, because I know they're putting that out, that trying to get the communities to do that by themselves, and probably at that time down the road, 10 years' time, that the amalgamation issue where you get the larger districts will come into play on the next commission and not probably in this one, because don't know where that's going to end up at all.
Yeah, except that this commission's work is supposed to last for 10 years. Because these commissions are only to be set up for after every third election. That's the way the present act reads, so that you don't have a different commission the next time there's an election. It's really trying to set it up so that it's stays fair for the next, say, 3 elections.
The other thing I wanted to comment on, this is sort of personal. I've lived in the Summerside area for 40 years, and one of the things that is really very valuable and very important in this area is the Acadian culture. And I realize they have a smaller district, but what they put into our community and the good relationship with them from the Acadian culture in the Evangeline area is extremely valuable and very much appreciated in this area, and we often participate of what they have to offer, and we very much enjoy it. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
My name is Douglas Simmons, usually I don't do anything like this. But the last 3 elections I've been sort of irritated, and it's just the way it happened. Anyway, we live in the boundaries of Summerside. We live between the Blue Shank Road and Reed's Corner. And we're in District 19. And we have nothing against the residents of District 19, whether they live in Bedeck or Borden or Kingora and everywhere else. But we pay our taxes in the city of Summerside, and somehow, now whether it's Summerside, whether it's Kingston, whether it's Georgetown, all the different communities hopefully can try to be in the same district in their area there. Now I realize that Summerside has well, as many as like the speaker there before me had said 3, but I believe we have 4 MPs in the city of Summerside. The Tyne Valley comes down and takes in part of Summerside. There is two other districts in Summerside, and Malpeque comes in and takes into around Small Avenue and that area right there. Perhaps there's 5 there. Jamie Foxx comes in our area there. So there's actually 5. I think it's a little bit too much. And I realize what the last speaker was saying about on the Linklater side, because there's areas there that are still in the city of Summerside. And somehow, or whatever that you can do to sort of break it up and have it, well, I don't mean break it up, but consolidate it and sort of try to get, but I know it's hard because you're bound by the number of voters in each area there.
Yeah, and we're also bound by the number of districts that we could work with. It's not that we can put another district or here or there. That's a problem too. But am I right in taking it from you that you'd like to see the municipal boundaries sort of more closely adhered to?
If it's possible.
Yeah.
If it's possible. I know it's not the end of the world if in the next election, if I vote for if I vote in whether it's District 19, 20, or whatever, it's not the end of the world, but it would be certainly nice to vote in your municipality there.
Okay. And I think there's lots of people who express the same view as you do.
Yeah, and this is my own personal opinion there, I'm not representing anybody else. And you raised a point about the number of districts that you have to work with. And I know it's not nice to say, but there's people do move from one area of the island to the other, and whether it's the people from up west or whether it's the people from central PEI or eastern PEI, and they move into whether it's a little bit bigger communities or whether it's Charlottetown or Summerside. And so it just means that the population is shifting from these areas. And anyway, I don't envy your job, and that's just my opinion.
Well, we're glad to have your opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
There's 6 MLAs that touch Summerside.
6 MLAs that touch Summerside. That's interesting.
It's 6. There's Paula Bigger, Sunny Galant.
Why don't you come up and say that, because we want to pick it up on the recording device.
No, Sunny Land doesn't.
There's Paula Bigger.
Yes.
Oops.
That's 23, I think, is it?
Yeah, Paula Bigger, Matt McKay, Jamie Foxx, Chris Palmer, Tina Mundy. Am I counting myself? Oh yeah, Sonny's in Musquesh. That's right. Okay, so it is 5.
5.
But anyway, it's 5 touching, which is very confusing. It would be nice, even though it's been up before, to try to keep. I was talking to Carrie at the break there. I know these are sessions. The unfortunate part with something like this is we have more presenters and people that are involved than there is attending. And the unfortunate part is you guys, when you just make your decision, and all the general public then are going to scream bloody murder because they supposedly didn't have a chance, which of course they do. I'm right that all these in the back are meetings that you guys are having, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there is any better way to get people out. I do know there's a lot of people probably in Montague tonight for what's going on down there. But I feel just by looking at some of the boundaries, and like it's not an easy job probably to do it, to get the numbers, but I really think it's important to get the general public out to these. I don't know what is an easy way, whether it is to put some of the proposals in the paper so people can actually see, and then it may either freak them out and say, okay, I'm going to go out there and give my own suggestions, and then all of a sudden you have way too many. But it would, in my view, for Summerside, it would be nice to see.
You think it would help if we put them online on our website?
Yeah, and to let the general public know that they are there for viewing, so they can see, because it's terrible that we got half a dozen people come here to discuss something like this, and then on election day they're all going to be pissed off because, oh, I didn't know this changed. It's going to be the first thing that's going to be stated. But it's a huge thing, and of course, it's like Mr. Simmons says, it's people are moving and the districts are getting smaller. Now, I know it's not your guys' mandate, but it's coming to the point where there's got to be less districts because it's just not warranted for that many, but that's not your guys' mandate. Your mandate is try to keep them equal, and that's not an easy one. But if at all possible, and I know Kerry said that we can send in what we think may work, but you guys at the end of the day have the numbers to account for that if it would work.
Well, we'd sure be happy to receive any submissions that anybody wants to make that could help us, because we want to do the best job we can and come up with the best map we can.
That's right, because it's you guys are, on the day it comes out, you guys are the ones that are going to get the shit from everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to touch on what Gerard was talking about there. Very poorly advertised, this meeting tonight. I did not know about it, and I do try to follow these things. I read it in The Guardian, and they said, our first meeting in Summerside tonight. I had to phone Access PEI to find out where it was going to be and what time. Mr. Simmons, he had to phone someone tonight to find out, he thought it was 7, to find out what time the meeting was. Whether it was in the paper or not, I did not see it, and if the public don't know, there is other people out there interested, I can assure you. But yes, a very poor representation tonight. It is your first meeting. I will probably attend your third or fourth, because I think by then it will get interesting.
Well, thank you. We can certainly address the matter of notice. We can deal with that and try to do better on that score, if that's a shortcoming.
Len Arnold, I just want to make a comment. It was in the Journal Pioneer.
Yeah.
I read it a few days ago, and today, of course, they have on the front page and on the second last page is a big article there, regarding this meeting tonight. I have a thought came here about a municipality, and rather than have all these other districts touch Summerside, it might be a thought to move the boundary to the boundary of Summerside, and then maybe a part of the city be shared with some other municipality. Now, in a previous life, I lived in a community where they had the districts inside the city, and at the edge, they made what they called, I think it was called the crescent. and it just involved the edge, of the city. And it kept most of the internal part of the city intact.
Okay. Thank you. I might say about the numbers here tonight, they're not great, but there's you've all made a great contribution, those that are here. But the last time they had an Electoral Boundaries Commission, I spoke with the person who was chair of that time. He was a colleague of mine on the court, John McQuaid, and he told me he went to meeting after meeting with, there'd be one or two people. A couple of meetings, there were no people. So we're off to a better start than that. So. Yes, ma'am.
My correction in what that other gentleman said about the meetings in the journal. I don't get the journal.
Oh, yeah.
Lucy Moore Kunis. I have a couple suggestions. One is to have a survey on your website. Ask questions. What's important? Is it important for equal number of voters in a district, or is it more important to have communities of interest? Is it more important to keep a municipality, and get an idea of what people really want? And they may be more agreeable about disparity, like between the variances. Second thing is regarding advertising. Twitter is a great place, and I think that you could do something interesting on Twitter, and you might get more people coming out.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, though, for the record.
Lucy Morkunas.
Lucy Morkunas? Could we have one more request? Can you spell it, please? Morkunas. Thank you.
You're just saying tweet because Trump tweets.
Anybody else? Now that you've had a chance and a break to do so, has anybody got any specific comments on the maps you looked at?
Me again. Yes, we found the maps quite interesting, but after we got talking with this gentleman over here, we found them very interesting. I would like to be able to see an overview on a map. My district is 19, and when I see the proposed 19 there as compared to the existing 19, wow. All of the north of the Blue Shank Road is now going to be 21? 23. And 19 now comes to the south side of the Wilmot River. I found that very interesting because we were wondering where 19 had lost 300-400 people from the original map to the proposed. If you could have an overview of some sort that could show the districts as they were and within a blue line and the new lines red or something like that, I think that would be very interesting to anyone. We found it extremely interesting when this gentleman brought up what we were asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
This could be something that could be placed on your website.
I'm sorry to make you come around all the time.
Lucy Morkunas. I think it would be a really good tool to have on your website, kind of like a before and after. You have these pictures that switch back and forth. You can kind of go, if you've seen the Trump inauguration stuff.
Do you mean the crowd that wasn't?
Yes, the
that
crowds,
wasn't
where
there?
they compare one side to the other. You could do that with this kind of thing, and I think that would really get the conversation going. And on something more tangible would be for people who actually attend the meetings to have maps available. Like I have a pamphlet, but it's that my eyesight isn't good enough to really see that well from where I'm sitting.
Thank you again. We're getting some very useful advice here. Yes, one of the maps at the back, of course, is showing the existing districts. I don't know whether you noticed that one.
And then the black lines.
The one with the...
Existing boundaries. And then the colored ones are the proposed. So you can't see some of these were every 19. This was the former line for 19.
But I wouldn't be able to see where I am exactly.
Yeah, you'd need the map in your...
Much more detail.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try to address that as we go along.
But he just said back there, that was presented earlier. I didn't know that the color and the lines were on that map.
Okay.
And if you could just bear with me, because I want to go up to this map here, if you see
Yeah.
the line open, is to basically over to here is basically what we in Summerside people consider Summerside. But now you, like, this is the Fergie subdivision, this is out where Mr. Simmons there lives, in that area there. This is Meadow Heights subdivision. So what I'm saying is 2122 to encompass that area, because that is the way the general public of Summerside feel they are, and who their tax, or where their taxes are paid, and who's representing them. But right now, as like I said, we have 5 outside MLAs, well, 3 outside plus the 2 in center that touch that area. Now, I don't know if the numbers, when they're put together, can accommodate that.
Yeah.
But
What would you think, or what do you think the people of Summerside would think if, you know, if their ridings got, let's say, 4,500 people instead of 3,700? Would that be a problem?
I could not foresee it, because as a individual that ran, I ran in 21, and I had 30, the year I ran, I think it was 30.
Yeah, I think I need you at the microphone.
Yeah. I don't think it'd be an issue. If I'm not mistaken, the year I ran, the voting was 33 or 3,500 people in the the District 21, and I got to go through that twice, campaigning. So with Summerside having, say, in the 4,000, I would not foresee that being a problem unless it's in the middle of the winter. But no, I could not foresee that as being an issue of having that many people and have to campaign.
Would you think it would be an issue if Summerside, let's say, had a riding with, say, 4,500 in it, and yet you had another one either east or west that had, say, 2,700 in it? Would that bother you? Because people might argue.
It wouldn't bother me. What bothers me the most is, I mean, that I hear from general people is just like he had stated, that he is voting for somebody that is out in the country versus he's in the city. I'm in the city, so if Henderson only has to campaign to 2,200 people, I don't really care. He's got a big area to have to campaign. That's a different story versus here where you can walk the whole thing.
So you think he has to work harder to do his district, being a rural one?
I do, yeah, because you are on the road more than here. I can
Walk up and down the streets.
In and out. He in and out of the cars, up and down. I mean, you could go a mile before you get to one house. That is, I feel, yes, harder on the individual.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great food for thought. Anything?
That's what people don't take into consideration. The people out there, what extra work they have to do versus city people that are campaigning.
Okay.
I concur with him because it doesn't bother me if the residents of West Prince or Eastern Kings have less people in their district, like, you know, and then because they're all in one geographical sort of area, and the communities are in the same district, because you can't split Georgetown into, for example, into half in one district and half in another. It just wouldn't be right.
So I think, if I'm getting you right, that you think that this sort of to find the right community of interest to be in is the most important thing, and not the numbers. Would you agree with that approach?
Yes, it seems that since that court case came out a number of years ago, and where you had to sort of split up the number of ridings and and have a certain number of people in that riding, that's what this is all about now. Like, it just opened up another can of worms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark McKay. I have, since 1993, with the exception of 2 years, done heart and stroke canvasses both within areas where there is housing close together and out in the country. And it's similar to the situation you run into when you're enumerating or if you were elected official. And it's a lot harder to work the areas where the homes are spread out than it is where the homes are close together. And it limits your time in transportation and traveling between the areas. So I have sympathy for the MLAs in that situation. But then us country people are hardy.
Yeah,
So
true.
we're used to, we're willing to do the work and we're used to it. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. We'll have to cut a hole to make that path a little shorter.
Lucy Moore-Kunis. I think it's interesting, the discussion about rural and urban voting. And I think it is important to remember that rural voters only have one representative in government. They don't have a city MLA, so that their MLA in Charlottetown represents them. And whereas somebody in Summerside has got their city councillor and their MLA in Charlottetown. So there's that issue. The other thing is, don't you have to stay within a certain variance? So when we talk about a city having, oh, it's okay to have 4,500 voters in this district and 2,500 in a rural district, I don't think you can actually do that.
Well, we have to, at the far ends, there is a mandate that we not be more than 25% above or below. But that's not even where the real boundary is, because the courts have said that under Section 3, it should be near parity unless there's some very good reason of effective representation to depart from parity. Well, very good reason may be community of interest, and the division between municipal and rural might well be that type of.
I understand the 1993 decision. Their variance was plus minus 15%.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was at that time. Then they tried to lower them to 10 in the Justice McQuaid's report. And then the special committee of the Legislative Assembly that was set up after the McQuaid report was rejected, they set for themselves a limit of 15%.
I understand that in Iceland, they have a unique situation where the rural districts have a smaller electorate than the city districts, and I don't know what the circumstances for that is, but that is, maybe you guys can look at that?
Yes, I think that's worth looking at. I think that was even true in the main case that went to the Supreme Court of Canada in Saskatchewan, because the districts in rural Saskatchewan were smaller than the urban ones. So there's precedent, no question, to have a difference, a variation between rural and urban for some of the reasons that have been mentioned here tonight.
I do know that the Saskatchewan case was referred to in the PEI boundary charter challenge.
Yeah.
So there's actually room for maneuvering?
Well, there's certainly room to consider that, yes, by all means. No, you might as well go, yeah.
Ron Rayner, Badek. With the, again, back to the municipality discussion, argument, or whatever, they are talking same numbers as you guys, roughly 4,000 people, but we also have a basis of 200 million assets. Are you guys talking any money in the districts, or is it strictly head count?
Head count.
Thank you.
electors. Yeah. How are we doing on time? We've still got time if you've got questions or advice for us. It's certainly been, speaking for myself at least, a very useful evening. Even if you're a small crowd, you were mighty. You give us some good food for thought, and it's a great beginning as far as I'm concerned.
Douglas Simmons again, my last time. I certainly wouldn't want to see Summerside been split up into let's say 4 areas, and then branch out into the country. And for example, let's say if there was a district where I lived and it came up into Badek and only took in a certain area of Badek, that's not right. And it's not right for the residents of Badek. So I'm more as a boundary, if it's possible, boundaries, like
Summerside has how many people?
Summerside?
Is there about 11?
15,000.
No, we're up to around 15,000. 14, 15.
Okay.
14, 15,000?
Yeah, that'd be people, not electors. So.
Oh, yeah.
Gary knows the number. Gary knows the number.
Gary knows the number, yeah. 10,000?
Thank
Would
you.
you have 2 districts, 5,000, would that shock you?
No, not at all. You're perfect.
I'm getting that this idea of sticking to the boundaries is very important from the people here.
Well, maybe the people who spoke, it's not necessary for all the people who vote anyway, like it's up to them too. On that map over there, District 22, what's the right border of it? Is that South Drive?
Yes.
No, just go back.
Yeah, no, it is South Drive. That blue line,
This is
South Drive.
South Drive right here.
Yeah,
So there's still Summerside right here.
yeah,
And now we're proposed to be in this district here.
yeah.
Just shift it over. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the other members of the commission wish to make any comments at this point?
Margaret McKay. I guess one thing that really concerns me is there's no councillors or anybody here from the city of Summerside. And I'm wondering if you're going to have separate meetings with those, like with Charlottetown and with Summerside, because they often come up with issues that none of us hear about, and they do it privately. So I'm wondering what is going on there. There should be people in here from the city of Summerside, and there isn't tonight.
Well, I can assure you that I'm not having any private meetings for anyone, whether they be town councillors or MLAs or anybody else. They can all come to the public meetings and make their statements the same as you people who are here tonight have done. So that's my stand on that anyway. Well, if there's no more discussion, I thank you all very much for coming. I think it's been a very useful exercise, and we'll take what you say to heart.